back. No. This is NODNARB'S Closet. I'm EDAW'S Brandon, and today I have with me a very special guest, Mr. Apocrypha Now, Ben.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, most definitely. I've been following your work for quite some time, and people that you do work with ever since I got into this hobby, which is about 3.5 years now. So not very long. A lot of people that are friends of the podcast, which are the two people that listen to this, are very used to the idea that they know that I played D&D since I was 10 years old. I never got into painting or war games until later on in my life. Where did you kind of start with all of yours?
I followed a fairly typical kind of pattern of engagement with wargaming. So as a young lad, I was born in the late 1980s. So when I was around like 8, 9, 10, my local town had a Games Workshop shop in it. And back in the mid to late 90s, everything was still at the incredibly brightly coloured, incredibly gaudy, goblin green bases, blood angels versus bright green orcs, that kind of era, which was obviously very evocative and enticing to a young man. So
yeah.
I think I dragged my parents into the shop once or twice, and they sort of hard no, like, this is weird, these people are crazy.
Yeah.
This is expensive. The guy who works here is far too keen. But then later on, I had a school friend who got the second edition Warhammer 40,000 starter set, which was the one with the monopose blood angels, where you had like 20 of those, and you had a cardboard dreadnought and a load of Gretchen and a load of orcs. And I played that round his house, and I think I might have painted up some Space Marines with him. And then from there, I managed to kind of break through with the parents a little bit. I got a couple of White Dwarfs. I got a couple of boxes of Space Marines. It was all fairly standard. And then I discovered the Imperial Guard and big tanks and stuff. So
was it painting? Was it painting at that point, or was it just assembling? Or
it was assembling and painting and not playing the games. So I liked looking through the books, but I just didn't understand them because I was too little and they were too complicated. But my dad is a bit of a history buff, and I'm a bit of a history buff, so building some model tanks and painting them in sort of interesting camouflage schemes or adding bits to them kind of was quite fun for both of us. So that's something we used to do together. And then in my teen years, obviously, I then stepped away from the hobby a bit and pursued other interests, which again, like I said, pretty typical story. Went to university, etc. And then, in my mid-20s, left university, was in a rented flat with one of my mates, with not much to do. I'm not I don't have an up-to-date console or anything, or a particularly good gaming PC. So I had a lot of spare time, and I started dabbling again with Games Workshop miniatures. So I got a box of Space Marines, which was the same box of Marines that I had when I was 12 or something.
That's
or 11.
Awesome, man.
Because the then the release schedule was a lot slower. We're talking I guess 2012 roundabout now.
Ben, you keep on saying back then and in the late 80s, as if you assume that I'm from any other era except from you. I was born in 86. So
cool. Oh no, you're down with this then. No,
I love the age.
Yeah. No, that's good. Oh, good. I'm glad. My references aren't lost.
I only look like a child, Ben. That's the only. I only look like a child. I have a.
Hey, don't knock it, mate. That's probably
hey, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's excellent.
Yeah, and then since I sort of got back into the hobby, I made friends with some local people who actually played Age of Sigmar and stuff, or played 40K. So I had a couple of actual armies and actually played Warhammer properly. So I was really doing the whole thing, building, painting, gaming, everything. And then I got Instagram, and then I found all this weird 28 shit online, and Blanchitsu and all this grimdark stuff, and that walked my mind. And then I was lost. I was a lost boy.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic happened, and we all had to stay at home for a couple of years, and that gave me a lot of opportunity to kit bash, paint, smell enamels, do all sorts of weird stuff.
And they said that the pandemic was actually a bad thing, but somehow all of us got back to the hobby around this time.
I'm kind of craving a lockdown. Like, I know that sounds
Yeah.
like a horrible thing to say.
No,
Like, if there was a way we could have a lockdown, but no one got hurt, obviously. Like, if it was just like a pretend lockdown.
No, I
you
most
know.
definitely agree. I was living in Italy during that time.
Right,
and
cool.
well, the Italians up in the north did not think a lockdown it didn't pertain to them. So they would, like, the first day they got let out, or everybody got let out of their homes, they're all standing like inches away from each other. I'm like, Jesus Christ, didn't we just learn about this whole thing? It's not over.
No,
like,
I can see that going wrong quick. Yeah.
Oh my God, it was terrible. But yeah, I mean, I long for those days too. A lot of people had, understandably, they wanted to get out of their homes, but I could be locked in my home. Just give me a couple of cases of beer, and like a month,
and some paint and glue, right?
That's
like,
that's
you're
it.
fine.
I use oils.
A working internet connection. Yeah.
I use oils now, and I got a shit ton. Like, I'm so stocked up. If the apocalypse happened, I could paint until the end of time. So
nice.
Here's hoping for the apocalypse.
That's the kind of prepping I'm on board with. Yeah. Hobby supplies.
Yeah. Well, when did you get into D&D?
So D&D, that would be a little bit pre-pandemic. So when I was kind of like just going from exclusively Warhammer to starting to think about other aspects of the hobby or other games. A good friend of mine who is called Ever Chasing Calm on Instagram. He's an excellent DM. He set up a little one shot just to, like, because he was at the time he was a relatively new DM, and he had some friends who'd been doing D&D for a while, and I'd never done it, so he like roped me in, and we had this one shot that lasted like a whole day. And I was hooked. I was in completely. So we did a couple of one-shots after that. Then we started a kind of an in-person regular weekly campaign. Lockdown happened. We started a new campaign online. But at the time, my audio was not great on my old PC and stuff, so I had to kind of step away from it just because I wasn't enjoying it. But then I've subsequently changed my rig. I've got a better setup now. So I've been in an online campaign now for about... We started summer before last, so I want to say like 18 months. It's been a big one, big, long campaign. And we're kind of, well, we think we're near the end now, because we think we're close to like the big baddie at the end, and like doing the boss.
At first I thought we was yourself talking to yourself, Ben. So
No. We is in like the party, like the adventurers. But, the DM's, he's a psycho, so there could be all sorts of shit going on. We've gone from
psychos.
Level 3 up to level, I think we're 11 now, so we've developed a lot along the way. And we nearly had a TPK at one point, and a couple of guys survived, so then everyone got new characters. And I'm on my third character now, because I did something silly and got in trouble, and then died.
It happens.
Yeah. So yeah, we're kind of... Yeah, we have a weekly session. We Discord it out. He's done a wonderful job setting up like a big Roll20 thing.
God, I wish I could do weekly.
He draws these absolutely incredible maps. He photoshops everything. He's got this raft of like hundreds of NPCs who've all got their own voice, backstory, all these interconnections and everything. He's done a really good job. I count myself really lucky that I've got a friend who happens to be a top-notch DM to like lure me in. It's really good fun.
I respect that. I run a campaign now, and I have been running it since the pandemic.
Nice.
I like to get into all those intricacies as well whenever I DM. It's probably the fun. I mean, it's the most fun that I've had with any kind of game ever. D&D is, as long as Hasbro doesn't ruin it, D&D, well, it's forever in our hearts. It's a pretty standard, easy game to play.
Yeah, and if they did radically change it or ruin it or anything, most people have got the 5 ebooks, right? And they're pretty good. So we could just keep them and play with them. It's not like they're not going to come around your house and take your books away.
That sounds like Nazi Germany, so I hope not. America right now, yikes.
I mean, I didn't want to go there, but
it's the truth, man. Hey, I live here. If you think, if I didn't mention the fact that it seems a little fascist right now, you should think I'm a fascist.
It is, well, yeah, I mean,
I mean, you should
that's
consider.
sort of reassuring, you know.
No, it's not. It doesn't feel great. Oh, you know
No,
what it feels like whenever you've seen the rest of the world, and well, the rest of the world, a good portion of the world. I lived in Europe for 4 years, and we got to see about and visit about 16 different countries. Lived in one. You really, I mean, I'm a political talk with Brandon. Today on the show is Ben. Briefly, I'm very heavily into politics. It is one of my main hobbies, and I guess you'd call it a hobby. And whenever you get to go around the world, I like to ask questions like, how stupid do you think that we are? Because we have that Donald Trump. And if anybody doesn't like the fact that I've said that about Donald Trump, you shouldn't be here anyways. I don't care about you, and nobody else does. That's not necessarily true. I mean, but it's cheers. Yeah, cheers to that. No,
cheers to that. Yeah.
No, but it's embarrassing. But we'll leave it at that.
I just I'm going to chip in on that because you've
go ahead.
Red rag to a bull for me. I am quite disaffected with the British political system. And the 13 or 14 years or however long it's fucking been of the same party, and people seem to just have a very short memory. And the fact that the incumbent party can stand on an electoral platform promising change, but they've been in charge for over a decade.
Yeah.
And people do forget, guys. And people do forget. Just it's maddening. It's maddening. So from an unashamedly centre-lefty, I voted Remain in 2016. I don't like any of this anymore.
No, I don't either. And to be honest with you, I'm cool with this conversation right now. We're definitely going to touch on the painting stuff, but I'm in a situation where both parties are the same party, only they lie and say that they're not. So that's great. That's why I got a Palestinian flag over in the corner over there.
Marvelous. I couldn't see that one out of the corner. I can see the EDAW'S end, but there's just the whole world at the moment seems to be
going crazy.
To use an English expression, going through a bit of a blip.
Yeah. That's the kindest way.
Blip.
That's the kindest way of putting it. Because we've lived through 9/11.
Yes.
And all the good things that came out of that.
I don't know who, like when you're at school, you have like history books, and it's like, okay, this is the 16th century as a book, or like this is the 1850s to 1870s as a book. I don't think anyone can write a book for like 2000 to 2024.
Do they want to?
Because just too much mad shit has happened in a short space of time.
Right.
We're like on our third once-in-a-lifetime economic crisis.
I don't know how that is a thing. I mean, British people, American people, people around the world entirely are affected by a poor wage, by all jobs out there.
Yes.
There are so many people being eradicated from the middle class that it's insane. And poor people get poorer.
Yes.
So
yes.
Pretty soon, I think because it's coming to a head, we're just going to all have to eat rich people.
I mean, but it comes down to the numbers, doesn't it? It's like the definition of rich. The actual rich people want you to think someone who is earning, I don't know, £60,000 a year is rich, but they're not.
No,
they're not. But they want everyone to think that's rich.
Right.
So that the really poor people have got something.
We're talking about
aspire
billionaires. Yeah,
we're talking about the people who aren't even they're off the edge of the camera.
Don't show their face. Yeah,
you don't know who they are.
Yeah, I want to make sure that's clear, so you don't think that I'm a anarchist.
No.
Sometimes I feel like
it's fine. The divides within our societies have got bigger, and that can only ever be a bad thing, which is a shame.
So back on to brighter stuff. Like, if you're still here,
anyone who's still listening to this podcast that's turned into a manifesto,
right? Yeah, this is what the CIA is currently looking at on my side of things, and the British Secret Service on yours.
Oh
Um,
Jesus! I mean, to be honest, after 10 years of austerity, I don't know what they've got
I
left
don't. Well,
resource-wise.
and I don't
Like,
care. I don't care. At this point, I'm just like, just take me. Does it mean that I can be put out of my misery for all of this bullshit going on?
oh
This
dude,
is.
oh dude, bad times, bad times.
I say that you don't really know me, Ben, but I have a pretty dark sense of humor.
Shit.
Just so you know.
Okay, no,
I'm glad that I
I'll
prepared
brace
you.
myself for what else might happen.
Oh, Jesus. Anyways, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is you seem very schooled in, and I'm sure you'll be humble about this, but you seem very schooled about your direction as far as building and creating games. Three of which, one that I believe you helped co-write with Bill from Bill Making Stuff, Bangerang. Um, I know there's Yellow Cube and Tonks. Those are all so diverse to me in story and concept, and I want to pick your brain about it. Let's start with
Sure.
Yellow Cube, because this Yellow Cube is the first thing that I've ever seen you do,
Okay.
and
Cool.
I was pulled in by the lure of it. Like it was definitely interesting in a different concept to me. Can you talk a little bit on that?
Yeah. So last year, obviously, we spoke about D&D. I'm also a massive fan of Morkborg, which is the anglicised way of pronouncing it. I think it's meant to be something like Mjörkbjörg. It's for anyone who doesn't know about it. It's this kind of black metal, really simple,
Dope.
raw, old school Renaissance hack and slash kind of
You should be aware of it.
tabletop RPG. Oh, there he goes. He's got
Hey.
it on screen. Mine's like just over my shoulder, just there next to a pile of yellow cubes.
I got so many of those books.
It's a really fun game, and I ran a session for the people who I normally play D&D with. So it was like the first time any of us had played Morkborg, and it was the first time I'd ever run an RPG, because normally I'm part of the party. And it was really, really fun. I had a whale of a time doing it. I got my head around the mechanics. And Morkborg is published under this type of sort of Creative Commons license. So if you can make your own Morkborg book, like an expansion or new characters or whatever, you put a little bit of boilerplate in the front of the book saying this is not an official Morkborg thing, but it's built to be played with Morkborg, and then you can publish it, you can sell it, you can do whatever you like with it. You could reskin the whole game, you can do all sorts of stuff. So I thought, right, I've run a session of this game. I like it. By this point, I'd published a couple of other games, so I thought I'll do a Morkborg game. And then I went to a garden centre one weekend, and I found this very pleasing, like granite cube about that big for sort of paving. And I thought, so I painted that bright yellow. That would be a really good, like Morkborg kind of thing. You could be something you could like crush someone's skull with, or you could find, or. So anyway, so I bought this granite cube. I took it home. I spray painted it yellow. I dry brushed it in even brighter yellow, and I had this like weird yellow cube. And then basically the idea is the yellow cube itself is like a kind of cursed interdimensional artifact, and the players in your Morkborg campaign encounter this yellow cube. If they try to just like ignore it and go away, it like follows them, and like every morning they wake up, someone else has got like a yellow cube in their bag. It's got some like runes on it, basically like a giant D6, and the idea is you cajole your players into rolling this D6, and then it takes you on one of 8 random outcomes. So some of them are, you roll the dice and it summons an NPC that you can have an interaction with, and you can try to glean something from. It might take you to the yellow cube dimension, which is guarded by these like minotaurs, and you have to get some gold. It might take you to a battle that's happening somewhere in the peninsula of Morkborg land. It can summon monsters. It can curse you. One of them's a bit like a genie. One of them it replaces the characters. There's just all these weird things. It's basically just like a like a campaign kind of, not like more like a source book. Like it's not a whole campaign.
Right.
It's just if you've got a bunch of Morkborg players, you can drop the Yellow Cube on them, and you can just spice things up a bit and take them on a bit of a detour into something a bit mad. So that's where that came from. So that was, I'd made this thing, I'd made this book. It's on Wargames Vaults, so people can download it. And then I have dabbled with a bit of 3D design. So I 3D designed some sort of stone-looking cube heads to stick on 28mm miniatures. I then, I started sticking them on some soldiers, and I started painting them. And... Oh, there we go. We got some prints. Excellent. Yeah. So they're just yellow cubes you can stick on anything. So I had some like Napoleonic soldiers. I had some, I think, like 17th century, like sort of 16th century sort of Renaissance infantry, and I gave them all yellow heads, painted them up. I painted the bodies like black and white because A, I'm lazy, and B, if you've got yellow as like a primary colour, just black and white, everything else looks quite cool.
That's fine.
It's a little bit like Sin City, that kind of like desaturated black and white, but with like a puncture colour, like something to punctuate. So the yellow looked quite good. And then some people started also sticking yellow cubes on the heads of their models, which was great. And then round about this time, I got to know Curtis at Ramshackle Games. Really, really good indie mini manufacturer based in Nottingham.
He's great.
Really nice guy. Fantastic models. Can't sing his praises enough. He gave me this like little Ziploc bag with some resin bits in it. And he was like, "Oh, do a competition and like this could be a prize for your for whoever wins it." So I was like, "Right, I'll do a yellow cube competition," and then that prompted just madness, really. Just a wonderful month of silliness last summer where hundreds of people made yellow cube models, monsters, houses, vehicles, flying creatures, entire dioramas and vignettes, and it kind of the actual. Oh, I've made an expansion for Morkborg. That kind of totally got sidelined, and it turns into this thing about people just sticking yellow cubes on models.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic.
So in the end, there was only one prize winner, but I did like a short list of nominations. So I did like the best flying yellow cube, best yellow cube from before it was a competition, best yellow cube vehicle, best yellow cube monster, artiest yellow cube, like all these little sub things. And I saved all of the Instagram stories onto a little highlight on my profile, so anyone can go and look at them. And it was just a wonderfully bizarre thing. It was really good fun. And this year I'm doing it again. It's a little bit quieter this year, so the competition has changed slightly. So last year it was just Yellow Cube minis. This year it's design a Yellow Cube game to play with Yellow Cube minis. So shifting the focus more to like tabletop gaming. We've had some, really interesting contributions so far. There's a few still in the work. And I think the deadline is early May, like May 5th. I want to say off the top of my head.
Nice.
I'm just going to check my calendar to make sure I'm not fake newsing your podcast. Yeah, Sunday the 5th of May is the deadline for Yellow Cubes. So if anyone fancies making a skirmish game or a battle game or a dungeon crawler or anything to do with Yellow Cubes, please do, because it's fun.
I love how it keeps on going back to the politics a little bit with the fake newsing. Also, I do want to say, and I didn't want to cut you off, Minotaur is not one that I thought that we were different on between British and American-speaking individuals. You said Minotaur?
Yeah, that could just be me.
It
could just be me.
It's been written in the rules. All British people say Minotaur. That is how ignorant this podcast is, and
I've grown up with it being called Minotaur, but it could be Minotaur. Who knows? Who knows?
All British people say Minotaur. Got it. Ben, I want to ask about Tonks. That was the next thing that I got into of yours.
Yellow Cube came after Tonks. So Tonks was like...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Tonks was like about this time last year, maybe April instead of March.
So that's right.
An Instagram account I follow called The Hobby Dungeon, and also they're doing it again now. They did a one-page game jam. So the idea was you had to come up with a game that fits on one page. So at that time I'd recently kind of sort of lost my job during a bit of a restructuring. So I'd suddenly been left with a bit of spare time. So I'd made a little set of these 3 tonks that you can print, on a 3D printer, which are all kind of caricatures of historical mid-century tanks. So there's a little French one, a little German one, and a little English/Russian one. So I had these little tanks, and a lot of people have been like, "Oh, what rules are you going to use to play with your model tanks?" And I was like, and then Hobby Dungeon set up this one-page game jam. So I was like, right, can I try and write a one-page game to play with my little model tanks? And the answer was no, I couldn't, because it quickly went on to 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, and I couldn't condense it down. But what I made felt really fun, and I did a bit of playtesting with some others, and they thought it was really fun too. So I kind of ditched the one-page game jam side, which I felt a bit bad about, but I discovered something else fun. So I put together this little set of rules, and I kind of knocked up a little sort of punk illustrated, acid coloured rule book with some of my own illustrations and some collage and some sort of punky imagery.
Yeah, I love the aesthetic behind it.
So, I mean, I think as a fellow late 80s person in my 20s, everything was fluorescent pink. Around about 2007 to 2009, everything was fluorescent pink. University prospectuses and advertising, the kind of millennial pink was a staple of my life. So I and also the idea of having a pink tank is quite funny.
I mean it's
like
fantastic.
The best color to paint a tank is bright pink.
Yeah, because this shouldn't be violent if it's bright pink, but it is.
No, exactly. And I do. There has always been a bit of a tension with tonks and tanks and stuff, because I have tried on numerous occasions to get into historical wargaming, and every time I just get stuck at someone has to play the bad guys, or someone has to lovingly paint up the bad guys, and I don't know if it's my personal squeamishness. I don't know if it's the fact that I've got within living memory in my family, I've got people affected by the worst bits of the 20th century, as most people do. The fact that today so many of those things are still a problem. I don't do historical. So by taking a German 1940s tank and painting it bright pink, you kind of defeat it in a certain way. It stops being. Yeah, you destroy it as an idea, and it just becomes a kind of absurdist thing, and it just makes it a bit more fun, and you can try out weirder colours, and you can just play with it a bit more. So everything was painted the wrong colour, and it just made everything a bit nicer.
One thing, and the reason why I moved on so quickly to Tonks, that I want to tie both of those games into is the fact that what kind of drove me into your direction and a lot of the stuff that you've created, it inspires a lot of people to do something different with it. And that's the thing that blows my mind, is each and every single one of your ideas that have come up, you've gotten people interested in going in a direction with it. There are flesh tonks out there. There are tanks that are made of minced meat. It's dope as hell. I love it.
It's so weird though. It's so weird.
I don't care. I don't care.
It's obviously it's incredibly lovely for me to hear that people are making stuff for your game like that. That sounds that every time someone tags me in a post or something, I'm like, ooh, what is it?
That's
gotta be. But then occasionally, it's like you say, it's a tank that's got an arsehole or something, or it's got eyes.
I'm all about the asshole tanks.
Bacon or flabby sides and stuff, and it's just that wasn't where I originally intended it. But if that's where people want to go with it, then fine.
You got to take your inspiration where you get it.
Yeah. I'm not gonna stop them. It's just not my bag.
Because it's well, I have to say that it's a lot of other people's bag, because they have taken your concept in a lot of different ways. I love it, man. I got to read Yellow Cube. I love the concept of it. I love Tonks. You may not see them as absolute hits, but I mean, dude, those are perfect freaking games that have, like I said, inspired so many people to like push their boundaries. And even if you don't necessarily like Butthole Tank number 6, inner anus tank number.
Yes, the
Yeah.
Sphincter Armor Brigade. It's, it's nice of you to say that you think they're hits and everything, and that's. I think in part it's because Tonks in particular has a really low bar of entry. Like you just need to make a tank.
But
You don't need to buy £200 worth or $300 worth of some fucking GW box set. You just need to like get something that's got like something that looks like a gun that can spin around on top, and then you can pretend it's a tank.
Or a tank or a gun coming out of a butthole.
Or some kind of appendage.
Yep. Yeah. It's all. I mean, look what you've done, Ben. Look what you've done.
No, I know. I feel there's a certain amount of guilt. Yeah. But I'm not. It's not entirely my fault, right? Because it was like plodding along. A few people made tanks, but then when Bill making stuff did his YouTube videos for Tonks, that was when it was out of control by that point. And well, I'll always be very grateful to Bill for doing that. But it's just but then again, that's a good example of like Bill took it in his own direction because he made Tonks that were specific to the world that he'd made, and they were characters in his kind of his setting, which was interesting. So a lot of people have sort of said like, what's the story with Tonks, or like what world is Tonks set in, or if you do Tonks 2, are you going to write some fucking background or like make it into a proper game? Because at the moment it doesn't have any of that. And I tell them, no, I'm not going to, because you can do whatever you want with it this way. As long as it's like last year in sort of I think it was November or December, I organised a little Tonks day at my local game store. And like there was one bit where we got everyone to like line up their Tonks so we could take photos of them next to each other, and the range of there were a lot of flesh Tonks, that was unavoidable. But like there was someone had like a cyberpunk kind of Tonk with like neon bits. Someone had like one that was made of rust. One guy turned up with one made from a Rubik's cube, so you could spin around everything and like you could reshuffle it. Blightbones on Instagram. Very, very cool dude. Very cool dude.
I'm pretty positive. I was going to say that sounds familiar. Blightbones is
that was Blightbones. He's a talented bastard. He is.
Oh my god!
And he got this little Rubik's cube, so like you could have it as a tank, or you could like spin it around, and then the legs, like the tracks, would make legs, or the gun could be on top, or the gun could be like coming out underneath. And it was
that's so awesome.
Very good idea. Very good.
Yeah, I'm sure you're on the Necropolis.
Oh yeah, no. Necropolis is that's one of my favorite games.
Oh, I know. Necropolis
Owl Shield
is on Owl Shield's Discord is phenomenal. I've been frequenting that all the time.
One of the best things, again, why I think Necropolis is so good is because it's a skirmish game where you only need like 5 or 6 guys, but it's the fact that the terrain is only 16 inches.
Right.
So if you're tight on space, or tight on money, or tight on time, or tight on, like what energy you can muster to try and build something, because it's only a little 16 by 16 board.
Yeah, it's tiny.
3 or 4 of them on a table in a pub or in a cafe or whatever, and it's just really accessible and fun. And I think that's something that some of the big brands, the accessibility side of it, they're really lacking on. So I like games where you can pretty quickly get yourself set up, and then because it's an indie game, you're going to have to make 2 sides, right? Because you're going to have to like get someone to play with, and then they can get someone else to get someone to play with them, and then it can kind of just
infect
pyramid out.
Yeah, we did talk about the pandemic already, but do this with the game. Got it. I see your concept now. Infect people with ideas.
Yes.
And make a political movement based off of it. What is that?
Yeah, or like a religious cult with cubes. Right? Like,
I mean, hey, if there's anything I believe in religiously, it will definitely be the Yellow Cube.
Don't say that, because I'll get carried away.
Well, you don't know. I'm going to come back on the next episode. I'm going to have a Yellow Cube as a face. So I will say that it's crazy to me. You had brought this up, and I just now remembered the Warhammer was still expensive back in the 80s or
Yes,
early 90s. That's so batshit crazy. I only buy Warhammer stuff if I've happened into some money, and I've stopped because it's just too. And there's so much better stuff out there.
Since the sort of pandemic, I just can't keep up with it anymore. I
No,
tried.
it's just like,
A
my
new edition of the game comes out, and you think, right, I'm going to give Age of Sigmar version whatever a go. So you buy your army book, you buy your army, you buy some campaign books, and then you blink, and then it's the next edition, and everything fucking changes. And I don't like that for lots of reasons. I think it's quite wasteful. I understand they're a business. I understand they have to make money. Yeah, but like every year, how many codexes go in a bin because they're just not needed anymore? It seems bad. It seems really, really bad.
Well, and that's why I'm glad I was never and have never gotten into actually playing Warhammer. I'm primarily right now like straight up D&D, and then we had an event called Grimtex where we a bunch of people in Texas came together and got to play some Forbidden Psalm and
Nice.
freaking Mordheim.
Yeah.
And Mordheim and that stuff to me is much more exciting. I have no interest in Warhammer having to have your own book to also memorize. Like, it just doesn't. And I get why people are into it, especially if you started off wargaming. I mean, that was the thing. That was the only thing there for the longest time. So
yeah, definitely.
So I
don't want Games Workshop to go away, right? Because they bring in so many people into our hobby, and especially in Britain, they have a high street retail presence. There are bricks and mortar Games Workshop shops in dozens of towns, which means there are dozens of towns where people, at least like I did back in 1990 something, will walk past this shop and think, "Ooh, what's that? That looks cool."
Shit, I can't tell you how many I saw in Italy.
Yeah, exactly, and that seems like, going back to our pathogenic model of hobbying, that seems like a good vector to try and infect people. So we still need that, and it would be terrible if that went away. But it doesn't mean I have to.
I'm quickly learning more and more about your personality of infecting people, Ben.
Good.
It has you saying that I'm dark, but you're a slow dark.
Yeah, slow dark. Nice.
Slow dark. Slow dark Ben is what I'm going to call you from now on.
Nice.
Real quickly, because I know that we got about a little bit of time left, but I wanted to speak on Bangerang.
Yes.
I admittedly do not know much about it because I was researching two different topics, and I watched build making stuff. I imagined that it was similar to that because that man loves to build robots.
Yes,
he loves
does.
robots.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the inspiration built up behind that?
So I started talking to Bill last year. I sent him Fishing 28, which was my little fishing game, just for fun. And then we started talking, and he was like, "Oh, have you got a copy of Tonks knocking around?" So I sent him Tonks. He made a series of videos on Tonks, and that was really good. And then he proposed, could we make something similar to Tonks that was specifically robot based? Because obviously he's made, his pedigree is making bead bots and robots out of junk and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea was, let's take the core mechanics of Tonks and mix it up a bit and add some gutterlands. So I mentioned before, Bill has got this world he's created where it's in the distant future, and there was a huge intergalactic war, and eventually everyone decided it was a terrible idea. There was universal disarmament, and the future is this kind of peaceful post-war, post-scarcity utopia, which is good. We like that. But they had to put all the weapons somewhere, so this planet, which was originally called Tapu, becomes like a weapons decommissioning junkyard where they just throw all these like bioweapons, robots, nanites,
surely
tanks.
Nothing will happen.
Like, just surely nothing bad will happen if you just put all this stuff in one place. So it completely like wrecks the ecology of this planet, turns it into a like rusty desert shithole, and the indigenous people who live there are persecuted and sidelined, and it eventually gets colonized by people who opt out of the utopian pacifist, intergalactic future, and they think, right, I want to have some fun. I want to have an adventure or a fight. So they'll go to the Gutterlands, which is this junkyard place, and specifically Bangerang. The idea is it's a robot fight that happens. People make robots, and then they battle them in a little 2-foot by 2-foot arena.
Right.
So again, very similar to Tonks. You have you can do 3 things per turn. There is a kind of random events table, so that every time you inflict damage on someone, you can mix things up a bit. But different to Tonks, it's a lot more 3-dimensional. So you can climb up things to shoot down at people. You can jump down on other robots. There's also rules for factions. So you could be one of the indigenous people who lives on Tapu. You could be a tourist from a wealthy society.
Just an awful human being.
You could be, somebody, a disaster tourism kind of guy.
Yeah.
You could be a meaty robot. So this might be where the meat tonk thing kind of.
See, you're saying it's everybody else's idea, bro. I don't.
Bill does because Bill did some he did some meaty tanks and stuff.
He did,
and that's kind of all blurred into the same thing. So there's
I kind of
meaty
wanted
robots.
to eat one.
Sort of just want to
it's salivating every time.
Fry it up a bit. Yeah. So it's a 1v1 or one. You could have 3, 4, 5 people playing it all at once. Everyone has a little robot. Different to Tonks again is the idea of choosing weapon loadouts. So in Tonks, everyone just has a tank gun because you're a tank, whereas in Bangerang, you've got 2 arms because you're a robot. So you can have 4 or 5 different types of shooting gun. You can have 4 or 5 different types of melee weapon. You can have shields, and those different weapons in combinations give you different abilities. So if you've got a hand, it makes you better at climbing terrain. If you've got a shield, you can bash things, but it's harder to aim your gun. So there's a whole. It's like Tonks, but the whole extra level of faction abilities, weapon choices, combos, and it just gives a little bit of extra depth. In terms of modelling opportunities, there's a lot more you can do because you can magnetize your weapons or magnetize your arms, and you can make a different type of each weapon. So there's just a bit more going on than Tonks. There's just a little bit more detail.
Yeah, I guess you're saying it's a lot like Tonks. I don't consider any of your concepts to be similar to each other at all, which is generally whenever people start something or they're continuing to do something, it's going in a direction. It'll be a skirmish game, it'll be this, it'll go. You have a role-playing fishing game, a tank game, a robot Yellow Cube game. I mean, you're just going in all different directions. And I think that's a compliment to you because, that's a lot of different concepts that you've somehow made a fishing game that is delightful to play.
It was a weird time last year.
Yeah.
Right. It was a weird time. There was a lot happening, and
since fucking 2020, bro. This has been fucking
no. But
nightmare.
the games bits are all last year. That was when it all got silly.
You say silly, I say fun as hell, man. You making a fishing game fun on tabletop is insane.
Well, now there's more behind that because that wasn't just me.
Oh.
So on Instagram, For Hydra, he's the granddaddy of the non-combat war game genre. He did Apple Picking 28, and then Friend.
Yeah, that's right.
Mangling Minis, he did Herding 28, and then in the group chat one day, I was like, "What other types of agriculture are there that I could make a dumb game of?" I was like, "Fishing, great, yeah, great, okay." So I've still my fish. I haven't painted my fish yet. I'm a terrible person. It's been a year. They're in the pile of stuff to paint. So yeah, it was not. I can't take the credit for that being in isolation. That was part of a wider conversation about other non-combat. Although, is it non-combat? Because kind of getting a fish,
That's
putting it
true.
in a bucket.
I
don't know. It
I
doesn't
think
seem.
for any fish people listening today, they take that as an offense.
Yeah, no, I don't want to. I don't want to offend fish
Don't offend the
or
fish people.
kind, or
They outnumber.
They will inherit the earth. They will inherit the earth. They outnumber us.
Kind of do already.
Yeah,
I mean, they make up water makes up, like over half of the, that's terrifying.
Yeah, no,
don't piss off the fish people.
No, that would be bad. No, don't do that.
We're pro fish here at this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, we're a pro fish people. Well, this has gotten derailed. Now we're going to go into a little bit of a thing that I like to call Kindness Corner. And usually what we do here is I have my producer put up a picture, and they'll do this after production, but I need a picture of the Kool-Aid Man with Benjamin Netanyahu submersed in the Kool-Aid Man with no hopes of getting out.
Okay, right.
And
yep.
Yeah, I usually have more to that, but if you want to add anything to that,
nah, that sounds. Other than
maybe
just
go ahead.
Just a technical point on Kool-Aid, right? Because that's not something we do much over here. Is that like a powder that you put in a drink, or is that like a fizzy drink as is?
No,
is it carbonated
it's a
already,
powder that you put into a drink.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, could we have the Suicide Kool-Aid Man himself standing right next to him, giving the thumbs up? Yeah, that would be great with the shades and everything. Good old pastor guy killed a bunch of people. That's
Jonestown, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was Kool-Aid.
We'll have Jonestown Massacre next to Benjamin Netanyahu submersed in a Kool-Aid. And have you ever seen the commercials where the Kool-Aid Man comes through the wall and he's like, "Oh yeah"?
No.
Oh my God! Please.
I'm not. I will Google it later. I promise.
I will not stop bothering you until you do it. And
no.
Probably
you'll
get rid of me. But yeah. Oh my God! I cannot. That's a cultural icon for us here in America.
Yeah, no,
it's dumb as hell.
We really don't.
It's not smart. Don't get
it. We have a lot of dumb shit over here too. So don't.
Yeah, I don't know how we made it into a cartoon. Anyways, you're gonna see it and you're gonna be like, I don't know what the fuck I'm watching, and why is this fruit drink so upset?
Yes.
Okay. As we previously discussed, a little bit of act of kindness that you've seen in the hobby, or something that you've done in the hobby to help others. What you got for me?
When I've been on some podcasts before and stuff, people say, like, what would be your tip for people who want to get better at doing something? So get better at games design, get better at painting minis, get better at playing games, get better at anything. And normally my slightly unimaginative advice is ask someone who's good at it, because we are really lucky that the majority of creative people in our hobby are also sharing people who share their insights and share their skills and their knowledge. So just over my shoulder there, you can see a 3D printer that I got about 2 years ago. And I was so unprepared for 3D printing and doing stuff. I wasn't sure how long to cure things for. I wasn't sure how to clean stuff. I had all the gear. I didn't have any idea what I was doing. So I reached out to someone on Instagram who I really like. They're called OnDarkenedWings, M's. They post quality memes on a daily basis, the finest memes. But they're also a wizard with a 3D printer, and they print busts for like painting up, high detail kind of quality stuff. They print up bits of Space Marine and stuff, and they do wonderful YouTube tutorials on how to paint yellow and all the like good crunchy hobby topics. OnDarkenedWings is awesome. Anyway, so I messaged them and I just asked them for help with 3D printing, and they gave me so many really, really useful pointers, and they typify so much of what I love about, our little corner of the internet. They are funny as hell. They've got a wonderful sense of humor. funny memes, but also really, engaging in terms of the community and helping someone who, didn't know what they were doing and just helping out a bit. So that's like just a nice example. And that has happened dozens of times with dozens of different people. But that's one that really, for me, sticks out as a hobby kind thing.
Yeah.
It was nice. So,
no, on OnDarkenedWings, check him out on Instagram.
Yeah. Thanks, Ems, you legend. Very, very nice person.
Yeah, that's great. The one thing that I do love about this hobby more than anything, to speak on what you were saying, is just the amount of kindness that goes into every single person. I haven't ran into a person that has been hateful or ignored me, or...
I mean, they are out there.
I'm sure they do.
You have to be careful. It is a shame, and I know in particular a lot of colleagues and friends in the hobby who are women get heinous, horrible shit hurled at them by goblins on the internet and trolls. And that's up for us. That's for us to change, not them. So it's
and they
always
should be
much
outside the
easier
hobby.
to just...
They shouldn't be like...
No, I completely agree. I don't like it. But I think, as time goes by, more and more hateful old twats die of old age, alone and cold.
It's so sweet.
And
like,
just the demographic shift. The demographic shift is coming, right? Like there's just less of them every year. So hopefully it's not soon enough, and we need to do more to address it.
No, I'm of the firm belief that there's a lot of people out there. I wouldn't wish anything negative on anybody. I do quite a bit, pretty negative amount. But I think it's healthy, I guess. But yeah, there's certain people that have nothing to offer the rest of the world, that only wish to bring it hate and despair and shittiness. So those people, maybe from other generations, should just, jump off a cliff. No big deal.
But at the same time, I agree with a large proportion of the sentiment of what you've said, but I'm also sure a lot of those people have been hurt or misinformed or misled or lied to, and that's something we can help and we can try to fix by having conversations with them. And I think ostracizing anyone, if someone's that toxic, just I don't want to talk to them. But I think a lot of people you have to try to talk to people about stuff.
You have put it in the nicest way possible. You appear to be an optimist, and I try to push past. I try to push past pessimism sometimes. I think my problem is only whenever they have the choice to be something different and they choose not to. That's very, very awful.
Yes. Yes.
But every bad guy started off being a good guy.
We've done a lot of the condition of humanity, deep philosophical shit today.
We have, honestly.
I was misled. I was like, it's a little podcast, bit of D&D, bit Yellow Cube.
That's what I thought.
Now we're getting into
opened up the floodgates.
The condition of humanity, the ethics of humanity, nature versus nurture. I
think I've elevated the podcast to a completely different thing now. I'm completely off now.
I am totally unqualified to be commenting on any of these matters.
If anybody wants to know, me and Ben are running for Prime Minister in the year 2030.
Oh, Jesus. Don't.
We are both running for it at the same time. They're going to cut us in half and stick two halves together and stitch it. Meat puppet, we will be. Ben, it has been amazing. Yeah, I mean, judging by the look on your face.
Just end on meat puppet. That's it. Just meat puppet. Mic drop. Leave the room.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I gotta leave it on something good, right? Ben, I want to have you back.
I love it.
I want to have you back, man, because I feel like we've only scratched the surface. Obviously, we're going to be running in 2030. We need to get our campaign ideas together.
Of course. Yes.
We need to get Baharath on there too. We can all maybe he can be one of our cabinet members. That's possible.
Baharath is the loveliest person in the hobby.
I had him on my fourth guest, I think, and he is the greatest human being ever.
The most fantastic hair. just
look at him.
untenably good.
I don't want to look at him and not hug him. Like, he's a fucking teddy bear.
Very complicated feelings. Yes.
He's very complicated indeed. All right. Yes. I think that.
And also, again, he's one of those talented bastards, right? Like he just makes these, these tall assemblages that they're not. It's sculpture. It's art. It goes in a gallery. I
made something out of a globe. No big deal. I just made something out of. I found this globe at my second-hand store.
I have to stand on a ladder to stick the little guys in the top. Just so good, so good. And also another hobby kindness thing. A real champion of the community. Like he regularly does a thing where if you react to his story, he'll go through your stuff and pick out your favourite thing and share it to his story, which is just a really lovely type of engagement on Instagram. And he sort of builds that audience and builds that community, and he gives people a platform. And top bloke, very nice.
Yep. Hey, you heard it first. Don't be a cunt. Be more like Baharath. Okay? We talked about words that we can say before. I had to say it once. Don't be a cunt.
Yeah.
Be like Baharath.
Twice. I can't believe we went through a whole hour and I didn't drop a tactical Z-bomb. You did.
You said,
I tried so hard.
I have to live up to something. I have to live up to some type of reputation. If British people use cunt more than American people, for some reason, I'm just bothered by that.
I remember when the Hive Scum guys came over to Nottingham. We had a big chat about that word, and just the fact that it's just not that big a deal. I mean, it's still pretty bad. It's
a word. I don't words are meant to be said, not hidden. Cunt. That's 4 times. I'm gonna leave on the 4th time. I need a cunt out of you, Ben. That's 5 times.
Cunt.
Oh my.
There we go. Right. We're fine.
That's a classic cunt if I ever did hear one.
Thank you. Yeah. I try quite hard.
Yes, no, it's great. Ben, it's been great, man. I really want to have you on again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You have a wonderful day. And everybody out there, again, don't be a cunt. Be like Ben.
What this man said.
Have a great day, everybody.
Hey there, this is Barrett from the ATI Podcast here to talk about what we have going on the ATI Podcast Network. First, we'll start with Waxing On with R and J. The format of Waxing On with R and J is audible selections made exclusively by our hosts and brothers, Ridge Jackson and Jake Jackson. Waxing On with R and J is sure to tickle your inner eardrums with some of the most vile tones you've ever encountered, and conversely, ear candy with pop melodies, focusing on spotlighting underground and rising artists. Waxing On with R&J is another outlet of the ATI podcast community to bring awareness to many musicians' craft. Also found on the ATI Podcast Network, NODNARB'S Closet, hosted by Brandon Stuart of EDAW'S. NODNARB'S Closet is a wing of the ATI podcast programming that delves into the world of role-play games, miniature painting, diorama making, occasional pro wrestling match watch-alongs, providing commentary with a dash of jocularity and satire, and much, much more. Of course, leading the pack is the ATI Podcast. On the ATI Podcast, we episodically invite guests onto our show to spotlight their talents, whether that's musicians, filmmakers, artists, actors, businesses, even athletes. Nothing is off the table. The focus of the ATI Podcast and its collective creative arms, whether that's Waxing On with R and J or NODNARB'S Closet, is to bring awareness and focus to people's talents. Be sure to follow us across all traditional podcasting platforms, and for the full experience, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search the ATI Podcast. Stay safe out there.